Hello, garden friends. This is Robin from Zone 6 in Northwest Connecticut. The plan for this weekend has been transplanting some new grasses where the voles have destroyed two of my grasses. Little zebra grass, a miscanthus little zebra, and another putting in miscanthus grassimilis. We're also putting in a swamp azalea in another spot where things have, we're having, like I said, a lot of trouble with voles in this, well, especially in this one area. So my husband's doing the digging for me today. I find the auger a little challenging, so he's going to probably be using that if we need it. And we're also putting in, fixing up the hanging baskets, cutting the stuff way back, and I'll show you what those look like. Also put in some more Gora, whirling butterflies, and a new version of catmint for me called Neptune. And just generally doing some cleanup, pulling the old ranunculus corms out of the troughs, planting in some seeds, some larkspur and stuff. So hope you'll join us, and I'll show you how things turn out. The garden is truly marching to its peak. In a few weeks, it will be exploding with color. Today, I want to talk about attracting pollinators to your garden, and even a small garden can have a positive impact on our ecosystems. When you start to see bees and butterflies and birds visiting your garden, you'll know you are doing a great thing for the environment. Before we get to that, I just want to show you chores that were accomplished this week, cutting back hanging baskets, planting some new plants, and getting some things cleaned up in the garden that the voles or rabbits have destroyed. So let's take a look and see what I picked up at Wholesale Nursery recently. Here's what I came away with. I got 3 Gora whirling butterflies right here. I got 3 of a new variety of Nepeta called Neptune. It's got a larger flower and bracts than my Walker's Low. I'm going to try it in a different spot. I got a Dicendra, a bleeding heart alba. I got a swamp azalea. And I got 2 grasses. This one is a variegated maiden grass, miscanthus. And this one is a miscanthus grassimilis. So 2 different places. And here's the swamp azalea, which has not bloomed yet. So that should be pretty. I have a spot that stays pretty wet, so I'm going to try it there. First up, we planted the miscanthus grassimilis and the swamp azalea. So let me show you how that went. Got my husband to help me with the auger this time. Yay. Here we go. So you can see the damage. When something is not growing at all, you know something's wrong. So when we pull this up, you're going to see that there is a lot of root damage, and the plant just wasn't growing because the voles in this area are really bad, and they've been eating the roots underneath. It's next to these beautiful hydrangeas. So miscanthus grass, or maiden grass, this is grassimilis, can grow 8 feet tall and 5 feet wide. It attracts birds. It's deer resistant, has great winter interest, grows half sun, half shade. And it's got really pretty feathery copper blooms in late summer to mid-autumn. So this is the first one we planted. Let's hope this one survives the attack of the voles. Next up, the swamp azalea. Zone 4 through 9, gets 5 feet high, 5 feet wide, has nice blooms, white to pale pink, takes part shade, likes soil that's medium to wet, which is good. It'll attract hummingbirds and butterflies, has nice fall color. We needed an area, we needed a plant that can take the moisture. This area stays very wet. You can clip off the flower blossoms immediately after it blooms if you want to. But it's native to the United States, and it's usually found in swamps and bogs and streams. So here it is, all installed. It's going to be right behind my bench. I'm hoping it'll get big enough that you can see it. And like I said, hopefully the voles won't bother it too much. On to the variegated miscanthus. This is zone 5 through 9. It's got a variegated leaf. It's got a really pretty, actually it's kind of a wide leaf with that really nice arching shape. Can get 6 feet tall. It has a mid-September red tinted bloom. I think a lot of times we forget that grasses are also great for pollinators. And you can cut this back in the spring before you get new growth. I usually leave my grasses up all winter, but that's totally your choice. If you feel you have to clean up your garden and not have that stuff around. Sometimes grasses get really heavy with the snow. They're a little unsightly, but I try and leave them up. They're great places for overwintering pollinators. So this is variegated miscanthus. And you can see with all 3 of these plants that we surrounded them with a fine mesh underneath, trying to help prevent vole damage. So here you can see I'm just placing the pots of the Gora and of the Nepeta Neptune, just trying to figure out where in this bed they're going to go, trying to avoid the sprinkler lines. So we're going to get these planted also. We're using power planter augers to help make the digging a little bit easier, and thank you to my husband for helping. So Gora whirling butterflies, zone 5 through 10, is really beneficial for pollinators. It attracts hummingbirds. It's really long blooming, gets like 3 feet tall with those really airy stems floating above that blue-green foliage. You don't need to deadhead them, but if the stems get too floppy, you can certainly shear them back by about half to encourage, thicker growth and new blooms. So we planted 5 whirling butterflies in this bed just to loosen the look a little bit and change the texture and contrast. And they're, like I said, they're great for pollinators and hummingbirds, and they provide some whimsy. I think what you'll see in this bed and some of my other new beds, that even though these are brand new beds, I think you'd be hard pressed to tell that this is a brand new bed. Things are really filling in. And as I've mentioned in the past, you don't have to buy full-grown plants. Things grow pretty quickly. I've also transplanted some irises over here. I also have some heucheras. And then the Neptune catmint is zone 4 through 10. It's a dwarf. Has really big, fresh green leaves. It'll quickly rebloom into late summer, especially if you deadhead it. It's not floppy. It's got that really pretty violet blue flower, takes full sun, gets like 12 inches tall and about 8 inches wide. And again, Nepeta always attracts butterflies and hummingbirds. So that also, all 3 of those went in this bed. And I also moved some heuchera, Palace Purple, that was underneath my Japanese full moon maple. I didn't think this was getting enough sun. And I also had 2 heucheras that I moved underneath the Japanese maple because they were getting too much sun, I felt, because they were getting burned out. So a lot of moving things around. I managed to get my hands on a new heuchera called Dressed Up Evening Gown from Proven Winners. It's got that really nice dark maroon leaf, and I wanted to add a little more of that into this bed. So we'll see how this likes it here. Zone 4 through 9. Really nice foliage interest and winter interest. Of course, it attracts bees and butterflies and hummingbirds. It's native to North America. That foliage is really almost black. It's a very purple black. It gets a white flower with a little pink backing. It can take sun or shade. It would be great in a border, in a container, as a cut flower, just landscape. And it'll thrive in part shade, but it'll grow in sun or shade. Next, I added a new bleeding heart, a white one, Dicentra spectabilis alba, next to my regular bleeding heart, the pink one, zone 3 through 9. Gets about 3 feet, well, a little less than 3 feet tall, likes part shade, attracts hummingbirds, very bee friendly, and is deer resistant. I think it's going to be a nice addition to this bed. So taking a quick look, containers are starting to finally grow. This is Heart to Heart Lemon Blush Caladium from Proven Winners with Prince Tut. So we're doing a little cleanup in the containers now. So these salvias are pretty much done flowering for the first flush. So I am going to cut these back because they are new, and I think it'll help them send out a second flush a little bit stronger than I normally would. So we're just going to cut it right down to the where the leaves are. This is a new Proven Winners container called New Attitude. And you can see it has Supertunia, strawberry pink veined is the trailer in there. The blue is the Lobelia Laguna Dark Blue. And then you have some white in there, the Snowstorm Giant Snowflake, the Sutura. All down over there. There's your blue. So kind of almost your red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. So this is a new container we're trying out here in my purple bed. So while we take a look around, notice all the different textures. And as the season progresses, we'll have more and more and more color. Remember these things when you're trying to attract pollinators to your garden. And also just for visual interest, plant things with different colors. The textures really make it, you can really see that in this drone overview with the daylilies and the trees. Things really take a life of their own when you have the different stuff. So here you have the globe thistle. Right next to it you have the hydrangea, completely different leaf, the grasses, the cryptomeria. These are my beds where I have some vegetables and some cut flowers. But you can see the elderberry, very different leaf shape from the cryptomeria and the grasses and the hydrangea right next to it. Then sprinkled in among that, we have the daylilies and, of course, annuals for more pops of color. Because don't forget, perennials, typically, some of them don't bloom all that long. Some bloom and then they're finished, and some will rebloom. So color. Green is a color. I've said this before. There are so many varieties of green. And while you may not love just looking at green, it fills in, especially with the variegated leaves, it fills in when things are not blooming. So here, I have my Dawn Redwood is that gorgeous lime green. Next to it, Queen of the Prairie is getting ready to bloom. The daylilies are starting to come out one by one. I now have a few of them. This paperbark maple, even the bark. So remember, shrubs and trees all have different attributes that you can use to enhance what your garden looks like. Change up the colors, get some dark leaved varieties of plants or trees or shrubs in there to break up all the green in between your bloom seasons. Here's a zucchini that's got the yellow squash flowers. Broccoli's just about getting ready to get started. Mahogany Splendor hibiscus. This will grow up really nice red. I don't know what's taking it so long though. And then here we have, a bunch of seed flowers and for cut flower gardening. So now let's talk pollinators. Who doesn't love seeing hummingbirds flitting around the garden? Planning to attract these lovelies is really simple. They see large blocks of bright color the easiest, and single blooms are easier for them to feed on than the doubles. So choose plants that have a wide range of bloom times to ensure that they have a reason to come visit your garden. Think Nepeta, cannas, petunias, salvias, agastache, lobelia, columbine, gladiolas, bee balm, redbud trees, bleeding hearts, penstemon, just to name a few hundred. I always consider pollinators when selecting plants. Don't forget shrubs, trees, and vines, and they can provide safe cover for birds. Bees and butterflies will be able to find those pollinator-friendly plants when you plant in masses, like 5 plants or more, so their foraging efforts are easier. By utilizing plants with different colors and shapes and textures and variegation, you'll have a successful all-season garden. So try to incorporate some long-blooming perennials that transition from season to season so you always have color and food for pollinators. So some of those flowers we can talk about as we just look at different areas of my garden. So cone flowers now come in a wide variety of colors. They're great for attracting wildlife. They have a long bloom period, mid to late summer, and they're typically hardy in zones 3 through 9. I have Echinacea Magnus, Cheyenne Spirit, The Price is White, Powwow White, Green Twister, just to name a few. They look great. And in the company of grasses and sedum and daylilies and black-eyed Susans, they all have different textures and foliages that attract. I love that they attract goldfinches into my garden since they love the seed heads. So try not to cut the spent blooms if you don't have to and you don't mind, some. I don't want to call it messy because I don't think it's messy, but I like to leave some of those seed heads up for the birds. Alliums are another good long blooming perennial, and they're available in many different heights and varieties in the garden, even after they bloom and the seed heads turn brown. So just some things to consider. So I'll just finish walking around and showing you what's blooming. All the Nepido Walker's Low. The yarrow has self-seeded itself into my daylilies, which are pink here, and they'll open soon. It's called Ethel Peters. The salix you can see is huge. The apple tree, Sergeant Crabapple, has bloomed, but the arbor over here with the New Dawn roses and the Elsaspathe clematis is really coming into its own. More and more things are opening on it every day. And then in the fall, the clematis, the autumn clematis, the white, will come up. I have a couple of new things here. Delphinium verbascum wedding candles is a new one. I've got a bunch of seeds here. Again, trying to keep the chipmunks out. I don't know how effective we're being, but so far it seems to be working a little bit better. I've got basil aromata seeds in there, and some zinnias and some cosmos. My strawberries are doing pretty well. I've got the pink flowering ones. I've gotten a few strawberries so far. And then you'll remember earlier in the season, I planted this Eustacia Vi rose with some sweet pea balmoral, and that is really starting to take off now. And I can't wait till that is blooming, and hopefully the rose will keep blooming again. So here, just walking down the path, around the side of my house, you can see the smoke bush all in bloom, and God, the bugs just don't leave me alone. So some more containers. I've been just chopping some of these things back. When they start getting too leggy, just cut it back. You won't hurt it. You'll increase a new flush. Just take a clump in your hand and cut it off. Becky Shasta Daisy is now blooming. We have the Stokes asters are coming out, and some Asiatic lilies. I don't remember this variety, but I love it up against the Coppertina 9 barks. So I love this with the purple, with the orange and the purple, and then the red-purple background, the seed heads from the penstemons. I love this whole combination. I'm so pleased with the way this looks. As you keep walking down the path here, you'll see I have a couple of invincible wee white hydrangeas. This is a dwarf Annabelle type hydrangea. So it's great for people who don't have a lot of room and they can fit something smaller in here. Flower color on these doesn't change with your pH, but this is a nice alternative. My daylilies are all starting to open. Some of the early ones are red. I don't have a ton of red, but I do have red daylilies. I really like those. I transplanted them. I've had them for many years from my first from my house in Vermont, and they've come with me from place to place. You can see the persicaria in the background is still blooming. So just kind of a walk around. I hope you're finding, some of these updates informative, what's growing. This is a calamintha, so kind of another kind of nepeta, but that's white. Again, there's the seed heads for the Allium atropurpureum. The Asiatic lilies, the Oriental lilies and the Orient pets are all really budded up. They're going to open shortly. So this blackberry lily. And again, I just, I hope you're finding it valuable to see what has transpired from the time I made some of these brand new beds, where things I put in small plants. These yarrows were really small when I planted them, and look at them already. You get a little bit of heat and things burst. The Agastache is now all blooming, Blue Fortune, with this violet colored yarrow right in front of it, with the nepeta around it, with the ruby ribbons grass. I'm in love. So one last look at some cone flowers to finish out this video. Like I said, I have a lot of different varieties. They really are a great treat in the summer garden. They're great cut flowers, and the pollinators love them. So I hope it's something that you'll consider growing. Like I said, there's so many varieties. Remember, plant for the bees, the butterflies, the birds, monarchs. Here's butterfly weed, Agastache, phlox, loosestrife. There's so many different things that you can plant. Here's a canna. And don't forget about things like Verbena bonariensis, light and airy. And one last shot, bees on the dahlias. So any kind of flower can attract a variety of pollinators. Well, thanks for coming along on just general garden chores of cutting back some containers, some perennials that need cutting at this time of year, planting new things where things have been destroyed, and just general maintenance this weekend, and a few new things. So hope you had a good weekend. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And if you're interested in any gardening blogs, I have a bunch of them over on my website, lenseydesigns.com. Great. Bye.